bills there, and the electric shop. You pay electric there if you had electric to pay. So there's a Bonson's, that was a good shop. And there's a Mendoza's. Now that was a fair shop. Well, I didn't buy fair, it's too dear. But yeah, Mendoza's, that was about the corner of Scarborough Street, something like that. But good shops there were. But further down, right at the bottom, was a lot of ship children's offices from all over the world, you know.
Yes.
They'd send the representatives and open an office up for their own shipping things, to keep a track on where the ships were. There was a lot of that going on. And then there was seaman's mission at the bottom. And when the sailors come up the ships, they could nip in there and play billiards, or even there was a service, a chaplain there. And it was good. My brother used to use that in between his ship trials. He worked on the mercantile marines, the food, before the war. And then when we got to come to have a state of emergency 2 years before the war, that would be 37, we were in a state of emergency, and they were asking for people to join the reserves. But when he come in from sea this time, he went and joined the Royal Navy. So when the war broke out, 3rd of September 39, he was away at sea, but a couple of days after his wife got his papers, he had to report to Lowestoft. But that didn't happen. He couldn't do it. So she come to me mother. She said, what am I supposed to do? My mother said, well, you must contact them people, because you've got to know where he is. He's registered in the Royal Navy. So she found somewhere where she could use a phone, and she phoned them in, and they said, oh, that's all right. They said, he's on the high seas, so when he hits port, tell him the next day he must get down here to the Lowestoft to get his pay book and all that, and all his equipment. And so from then on he didn't do no more merchant shipping. It was Royal Navy. And he used to spend a lot of his time in that, down the bottom of Church Street, the little chapel. It's for sailors. Anybody could go in, but it was mainly for the Navy men. And even the foreigners, you know, come up the docks and they go in there. Yeah. But not many people remember that. So it's been gone a long time, that little Seaman's Chapel. Yeah. So it was right opposite where the Royal Bath is now.
Are they?
The Seaman's Mission, right opposite where the Royal Bath is. That.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes. There's a little cafe there, I remember that. And then, of course, 1 or 2 cafes further up, Berks and that. And some nice shops up there. But there's very little money around, I tell you now. And then the dad had to look after it, because it went like water. So.
Well, my great-uncle had a shipping butcher's in George Street.
Oh, George Street, yeah, that's off there.
Close.
Yeah. My school went off George Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exchange school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember my mother used to come from Huddersfield to spend holidays.
Yeah.
And she was quite amazed, because she saw children running around with no shoes.
Oh, yeah.
No trousers.
Yeah.
Just bare bottoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was quite shocked by the poverty.
There was a lot of poverty. There were very poor people. And I know when we were off school for the 6 weeks, would say, can we have our bare feet in the street, Mum? Oh, yes, it'll save the shoe leather. Yeah. But watch what you're doing for glass and nails or anything. But the streets were clean. The only thing you got was horse muck, but it's all right. Somebody followed the horses around, somebody who had gardens and that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So what do you remember about your school days, Mary?
Oh, they were good. I didn't like to be off school for any reason. Not for any reason at all. But the school I went to, Exchange, my brother had to go and get a paper signed. I was only 7 when my dad died. He was 25. He was a man. And he did me around for my mother. She went to the school to get a paper signed to get pensions for us, see. And a pension for herself and orphan's pension for us 4 girls. We stood all over the school. And she lived in Church Street. She lived above the settlement hotel. Her mother and father were the licenses for that. And she was as good as gold. When he'd gone to the school and had words with the teacher and the staff, Miss Swin came to us, me and Annie, and she said, because we were the 2 youngest ones there, it was a mixed school, junior mixed, and she said, now the day your daddy goes, this was a couple of days after, the day your daddy's going to be buried, you staying at school all day. She said, and we'll be here, all the teachers will be here. And he knows, I always remember bringing a £1 note out of her purse, and she gave it to Annie. Annie was 2 years older than me. She said, Annie, go around the market and buy something. Don't wander any further on. Come back here, have another walk round, come back here. But she said, in spare time, when we have our dinners, there's a room that the teachers use separate. You can go in there, you can make coffee and all sorts of... We had a picnic at the teacher's expense. They were good as gold. They were. And they said, you go home at normal time when the other kiddies go. But she said, you don't go nowhere near that funeral. We were too young. I was 7 and Annie was 9.
Yes.
Too young. My mother didn't want that. So they were always very good. Then I finished up working for that teacher. She was as good as gold, she was. So she knew who was poor and who wasn't. My dad had come out of the First World War with bad lungs, so he never worked after that war. He was just sitting by the fire waiting to die. He was really ill.
Yes.
And he died at 49. So, anyhow, my mother was a good hard worker. She brought us up. She was all right. So,
I remember you once telling us that the school looked out over the market yard and the dead house. The dead house.
Dead house, yes.
Yes.
Mum used to say, have you seen any poor devil taken into the dead house? No, not today. Because she was dead nosy once, she wanted to know what was what. Anyhow, that's where they'd taken just temporary till found out where somebody could look after you,
yes.
Post-mortem and what have you. So, because they were coming off the beach, maybe somebody down there, But times were hard, like for some. But this is a good community.
Mm-hmm. And after the exchange school?
Exchange school, I went to Church Square. So I was still in the area, in Church Square, Church Square School. Of course, that was only for girls. I left there in 3 months before the war broke out. So, Miss Langley, my last teacher, turned up at our house one day And we took her in, and my mum, she said to me, Mum, hasn't Mary applied for a job anywhere? She said, well, I took her to the labour exchange, and she signed on, and she has to go up to a couple of times a week to see if there's any jobs. Well, she said, I've got one for her. And my mum said, you've got one for her, just like that? Yes. She said she doesn't even have to have an interview. And she told us that this Mrs. Bernard had this shop in Mary Street. It was a tobacconist, newspapers and that. And she said she has 2 little children. She gave her schooling up, and she has 2 little children, and opened this shop till they got a bit older. But she said the girl that's been helping her has let her down. It was only 6 shillings a week. But I went. And so I didn't even have to have an interview. Because when Miss Wynne when Miss Wynne and Mrs. Bernard got together again, she said, don't worry, she said, the person you mentioned is coming on Monday to start. And I was with them 2 years, but then after that, I used to go up to Greeter Avenue with my mum's cousin, because one of her mum's cousins, then her husband had opened the Steelworks canteen, and she was lonely. He used to go off to on his own on a night. So she found out that my mum was free and Nellie was free. I used to call them aunts. They weren't aunts, they were only my mum's cousins. And anyhow, she said, oh, come up every Sunday night for your tea. So I was there with my mum because she had asthma and she had a ticky heart. So she said to me one day, well, what are you doing, Mary? I said, oh, I'm working for my ex-school teacher in Mary Street. I said, just looking after the children, because there was a big fire, but there's a big fire guard round, but just keep my eyes on the kids and taking them to the toilet and what have you, feeding them. I said, while she's getting the papers ready for the mail boys, the delivery boys, she said, how much do you get? I said, 6 shillings. Oh, she said, go and work for her old dad, you'll get more than that. And then the next thing I knew, I never said yes or no, because I was happy where I was. Next thing I knew, they were down in a car, and they said, will you come and work for us? We'll give you £2.7 and 6. I got a rise of £2. It's a lot of money, you know that. Yes. From 14-year-old, well, I was 16 by the time I left Miss Wynne, yeah. But both jobs, they just come to me. I didn't even ask for them. But money was hard. Work was hard. Of course, the war made work for them that was fit. But the like of my father, he just didn't. He just couldn't keep going at all. So whether there's a lot of TB about, you know, with being in the army and in the bad weather and all that, he could have died of that.
Yes.
But when he was young, and when we decided we wanted to go to Christchurch, I went to see the Verger, and the next thing I knew, a couple of days after, the vicar from St James, called him Hughes, he came and he said, you can't just pick where you want to go. He said, we're short of priests away, vicars and priests, because we're going abroad, weren't we? As padres.
Ah, yes.
And,
that was during World War II.
World War II. So I'd push for any sermons that needed. So he said, you'd have to come to St James. He said, by rights, you're living in Pilot Street, you're in St James Church. So out of awkward, he was just being awkward. But anyhow, we went there. We were married in St James. But after that Christchurch was hardly ever used, you know. Hardly ever. It wasn't like a church anymore. Don't know what happened to it. Well, now it's not a church. It's changed again, hasn't it?
Yes, it's now, now an art gallery.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyhow, we got married in James in Musgrave Street. And I lived in Pilot Street from 1938 to getting married in 47. So we were actually at the bottom of Church Street.
Yes.
You could go down Church Street, you get to two archways, one led to the docks, the other one to the old town, and get to the top of that tunnel.
Yeah.
It was a tunnel, and you could see our house.
Right. So Pilot Street was in Old Town, was it?
Pilot Street, yes.
Yes.
There's only about 5 streets. Pilot, South Street, Bridge Street, Dock Street, and Pilmacow. It's only a little place, like, but it was a nice place to live. But you could come out at Church Street end or go further the other way and go over the railway into Musgrave Street. So that's the two ways to get it. The tunnel used to frighten the youngins when it was dark at night, because there's no lights in the tunnel. No. So we got by, like, but there's people who still fancy living down there, but there's some nice neighbours down there, because some of the neighbours down there had come up from Catherine Street with us when they did the demolition. They were old houses and they had to go.
Yes.
So they had to build us houses in the old town. So we got back with the same people we'd left.
Yes.
So they're all nice people. We knew each other and very good people. There's a block of shops, about 5 shops in South Street, and there's one pub, and that was the Union. Anna Carr run that. She was on her own, I think, yeah. And we could go up Pilmacow Street and straight onto the promenade up to Seaton. So we were right close neighbours. Everybody knew everybody, didn't they?
Yes.
Yes, we were all right.
Catherine Street was where you were born, was it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's Catherine Grove now, I think, or Catherine Road, something like that. It has 2 big boozed up, you know, but that was their business. As long as it didn't interfere with us, didn't matter, did it? So
where did you go after Pilot Street?
Pilot Street, when I got married, I went in rooms in Pilgrim Street with my sister-in-law. My brother was away in the Navy, so she said, well, come here till you get a flat or something. Anyhow, eventually I got a flat in, I don't remember, forget the names, up past the Bernatelle. See, I knew this would happen to me. It comes back to me, but too late. 38. Oh, anyhow. I was in this place, 3 bedrooms upstairs I had. It was nice, it was electric and all that. But when we heard of this little house going in Jersey Street, we took the chance of it. Well, we waited 5 years. And we've got a lovely house in Houghton Manor. Yes. Sometimes I wish I was there now, because there's plenty of room, 3 decent bedrooms. So I waited on the house in the estate year, from getting married to getting that house in Houghton Manor. But all the places I lived in was all associated with Whitby Street, Scarborough Street, all them, Church Street, you know, yeah.
So Jersey Street was near to Church Street, wasn't it?
It was, yes, 2 streets off. It was Church Street, Dover, Jersey, Exeter, James, and I knew them all. They were all associated with. And we got a lot of people with the trains coming in, because you used to get the colliery people.
Yes.
And they used to shop. You'd never be lonely down there. They used to come there just to go to the chemist, you know, in certain shops, because at every shop you wanted down there, you did. So we liked it, what we had, but we had to have a radio rental. It's a box on the windowsill, paid £1.11 a week. It was only sound, but just to get some plays or music through, because we had no electric, we only had gas.
Yes.
And the people who owned them houses on that side of the street, they were just all prepared to just take a 10 bob rent. That's what it was, 10 shillings a week rent. And they knew that they weren't going to put wires underneath and go to an expense, because they were condemned, see.
Yes.
So from there we thought we were in Luxwell when we got a bath and hot water and what have you, and 2 gardens. It was lovely, that. But it was nice living down there, because you knew everybody.
There was a sense of community.
Eh?
A sense of community.
Oh yes. Yes, it was all right. Everybody got on well together. And for all we only had gas, no electric. We had the British Legion right opposite us in Jersey Street. Mm-hmm. Well, you could hear the men upstairs, and the windows open, talking through the mics and singing.
Yes.
You know, yeah, British Legion, yeah. And at the top of the street, when I could look out of that door, look, the top of the street was a Conservative club.
Oh, so, in Whitby Street.
In Whitby Street. So whether it was a public house business or what, I don't know. But I know the Tories did a lot of work from there,
yes.
You know, yeah. And then round the corner, just past there, was the Alma. That was Whitby Street. And then you got into Church Street, and you got the Devon down below, and no Tories it was. But further down, the lower end of Church Street, you got these little public houses. They were nice for the workers to go in. Sometimes the dockers coming off the docks, go in, have a drink, you know. But it was really canny. We knew most people. But I don't know much else what I could say, I don't know. There's things have gone, haven't they? Some of the memories have gone.